All right, guys, what's up? Hunter Sales here. Just got down to Florida, hanging out with mom and sister for a couple days before ICAST gets kicked off, and just wanted to take a minute associated with the article that I'm putting out, just to talk about the St. Lawrence River NPFL event, stop number 5. Not the event that I was looking for. Started after the day one, was in ninth place. After the day two, ended up, I think 22nd or 23rd, and still felt like I had a really good chance to top 10 the tournament. After the first day, I was really confident that the pattern that I found was the pattern to win the event. I was targeting deep spawning smallmouth, 10 to 12 foot of water, using my Humminbird 360. I was looking at boulders where they were spawning and making a pinpoint cast to those boulders, and honestly catching that bedfish first cast every single time, unless that fish had already been stuck or messed with. And so, I knew that if I could find enough of that stuff, winning the tournament was not out of the picture. I think where I struggled is when I've been to the St. Lawrence before, I've always been able to use live scope. I've always had a bunch of deep fish found, and that's been the primary part of my game plan. And so I didn't have a ton of spawning flats. I didn't have a ton of experience looking for those big spawning smallmouth. And so, it was one of those things where I think a general lack of inexperience kind of caught up to me a little bit. I just knew enough about this is how the tournament is going to be won, that I was willing to gamble and go all in on it, but I didn't have enough experience to know the best areas to go and duplicate that. And in 3 days of practice on a river that big, I spent one of the days trying to practice close to, not close to the ramp, but probably an hour from the ramp at a midpoint. And then the other 2 days, really just bought into the long run out of the mouth of the river at the lake. But looking back on it, I think that this is the first event that I ever fished up north where I was on the winning pattern. I'd figured out what I needed to be doing. I really still believe that what I was doing was the right thing. I just didn't have enough areas to go and do that as the tournament progressed, right? And so maybe the way I practiced needed to change a little bit, or maybe it's just I need to spend more time in the future up there getting acclimated to those spawning smallmouth and where they like to do it the best. And go inside. And but you know what? Listen, we live and we learn. I'm not upset with how the tournament went. I am upset with how the tournament went, but I'm not upset with the decisions that I made. I think you live and you learn. Ultimately, if I'm ever making decisions to try to catch a big bag, I don't think it's the wrong decision, right? It just didn't play out this week. We're going to take it on the chin, learn our lesson, and move on to the next one. The good news is I only fell from 9th to 17th in the AOY standings. I'm pretty much still a lock for that championship, and so that lets me have a lot of freedom going into Logan Martin. Maybe we're going to gamble big again, take a chance at the win. Consistency has kind of been my style over the last few years, but I've got this bug inside me where I want to win, and so we're going to gamble a little bit going into Logan Martin. But man, just overall a good week. Learned a lot of lessons, and appreciate everybody on the NPFL website keeping up with us. I'm definitely enjoying my time fishing with the league, and I'll catch up with you guys next week.